This is Gerald Ilvamas. Now and then I choose a very difficult word to analyze after some easy words, like for instance, I had tent lately, which was pretty easy to understand and so on. And I thought, which word is not easy to understand? And so I, a quite short word, and it is machine. And it is complicated also because yeah, the C and H are combined as one sound, and and then even the C is has the S sound, which can also have a K sound at other moments, and that could be complicated to understand. If not, we have to prepare it and to show you how it has a foundation, why the C can have a K sound and why it can have an S sound, and why this is and when this is. And that is a good opportunity to face, let's say, I will face the first 9 letters again shortly, and I will explain why C can be with the sound K and why it can be with an S. If you look at them in the system of order that you have, the order of balance that we have in the letters, which I'm not going to explain why this balance exists in the first place, but there is a balance in letters, and the letter K and the letter S are really at the two ends of its system. The K is really at the end results of a foundation from a starting point, so it gives you an idea from what is my starting point actually. So clearly that is that kind of focus in K, while the S is really at the end result, so it is not focusing on my starting point but at the feedback process, and it actually says, yeah, what do we really have as a feedback process and what are the results? That S, these two opposite results, so which starts from your starting vision, what you do and what you start and so on, or from what the world itself demands, are the two opposites. And these are the two sounds associated with C. So let's go and look up what the letter C is and how we could actually associate all the letters, because I mostly focused with my system that all the letters are about focuses. We have a certain focus in a time and space context, and by knowing this focus we can start to associate also forms from it and so on. But every focus is not just a focus on a place, on a position. It has to be filled in. So, and it has to be filled in by and via the conditions that are described in these positions. And by doing so, by filling it in, it also has its limits, of course. So that makes it a little bit more complicated by learning letters and learning to recognize what the letters are expressing. Is not just that we have to know the positions, but also how to have to fill it in with a form, and also until where we can still associate it. So it is a certain range, and I will limit this range a little bit, and I will explain that quite well with the letter A. And of course I will give you a little bit more attention to the letter K as well, before we associate that with the letter C. But I will go through all the first 9 letters again, so that you have a very good idea what are these focuses and how do we fill it in with associations and why they are filled in with such associations. But we start with the letter A, which is the starting point of our system. It's our focus. Let's say it's our focus. We have here the letter A as our focus. I have the letter there. We have the form, which can be within a range of, let's say, square, and of course within its own borders or the circle. There we have it. So, like I said, every reality is about focus, and every focus has 3 options always. And actually the full reality of also everything that exists, but also of naming reality, of behaviorisms, of how we approach reality, of what we can recognize reality, is based upon the 1, 2, 3 rule. The 1, 2, 3 rule says, okay, I have it in the middle, it's a steady position, or it's okay, it's already building up, it's there, and so I look at the changes, or it's at the borders and it behaves more unpredictably. So these three regions, they behave differently. We have different letters there. The three positions, they are there everywhere. So even in the first position already, they are there as well. But of course, what will be the most important? It will be, of course, the most important, the starting point. So one is the number one is of our first sort of focus in A is that starting point, which is the most important one and which will dominate. That doesn't mean that we cannot fill it in further, because that's also how we work. We can associate it, we can breach it, we will connect it further and so on, and by connecting it further we will go also further beyond that range of the starting point. We're going to fill it in. The range of filling in is expressed in number 2 here. That's how we go from the middle and we start to fill it in until we have certain borders or limits. So these three options in every letter are also there, and even if we're going to use them again, reuse them, going to use them in associations, in continuation, in extension of its own nature, we can express it with a certain tendency. This tendency of A will be that it confirming itself. Confirmation is in the horizontal, so it's also a confirmation, starts from the middle and continues. Actually, it's that continuation from A to A. So you have all the kind of variations that make up the full perspective of A. So it is a range. Of course, the most important thing is its starting point, so it's its position, but we have to realize when we extend it outwardly what will happen. So basically, so you have always this 1 to 3 reality of each focus, and we have an object of focus, and with the focus of A upon the object, we see the object as it is, like that. So for A, of course, it's the starting point, so our main focus will be the starting point itself, and the rest is actually, it is an addition, but it will all start from the starting point. So basically on the reality, it is, we have the whole range of everything we can see, but our focus, that's what it will do. It will go, of course, to include more than just the middle. The borders are less clear. The filling up is also less clear, but it's doing that. The most important thing, the most important quality is, of course, that middle. That's more or less how we see the reality of A. This whole range, but basically it's just, okay, we have a middle, and so we can use it and we can start to use it. That's the idea which you have. So all the qualities from each letter are based upon the ideas that you get also by the conditions that they are here. You have a starting point, so yes, I can start from it. And if I extend it to the other letters, the letter T, this is, when I'm more focusing on what is already becoming more, you're also going to distinct a certain form, and that's your next focus. You moved your focus a little bit away from the center, and you have a distinction of something. And also something will form there. That's the letter T. That's that consciousness, that awareness that also becomes there. So that I don't only have a middle point, but I have something to work with. That's the T from something. When your focus is moved away from the middle focus, okay, we're already having some doubt, like, do we still have something here within our focus? Because in the middle you almost don't see anything anymore. So the only thing you can see is the limits. So you can see certain ends, certain limits, and you're not longer certain, is it still there? Do we still have it, or do we have it, or is it disappearing? It's going away to the borders. That's also associations that you get automatically. So I already gave you some educational values, how we come to qualities that are related with just the focus. So the ATK, so we have with a steady center. So then we have a little bit further away, we focus actually already on the material, and then we pick out what is a material. So we have already some variations. So when we already use the vertical here, the horizontal and the vertical, and yeah, you pick out everything which makes sense, which has a form, which has material. It is about that material. We move our focus and we meet material actually. With a K, we meet the borders. That's what we have as an extra association. So we keep it centered with A. We realize that there is more and variations with T. And we also realize that there are maximums or limits or borders with the K. If we would really say like, okay, we go from the middle and we go to the borders from A to T, to the next letter T, continue to the borders, and so that we have in K, we have the three focuses, A, T, and K, but we emphasize the focus towards the K, towards the borders. So what do we have as a word? We can recognize the word once we understand it, and there's already one function of that we use the border separately in the C. It's the word attack. You can see it, A, centered, but I go to the board already to the next letter, T. From T I also start a new. I will use that as a center, but again I use it it becomes a new center of its own, which is that corner, which is in the corner. I keep pushing my borders, is the attack. So you see how the associations come forward and are indeed inside the words, and inside the order of letters you already have the meaningfulness of it. Okay, but we keep it centered in A. We will find its materialization further in T, and we will find its practical limit in K. That's the association which you get automatically. More correctly orientated, you see, I keep my center, I go up in T, and I go to the side in K. So we have already some maxima. The maxima and the maximum of A is the form itself, the reality of the form itself, which we can still centralize. So A is associated with all forms as long as we can keep its reality that it has a center of its own. That's the consciousness of A. T, you can see, you can change it a little bit. The reality is, what material shall I use? Shall I use the material, the circle? Shall I use it of the square? Shall I use the borders? That's all possible. It's a choice of of borders in a way, but it's also, no, it's not borders. It's as long as you connect it to what has a functional material. That's the T. While the K can be also in three options. You can start from somewhere, so you have a starting point. A starting point is going away. The starting point is going to the borders, or it is picking out a border as well. So this is also all is about limiting choices. It limits your choices, so it goes into that direction. These are associations that are automatically done, and if okay, one of these options that I gave you was a bit in between T and K, but it is you have the association automatically when you follow your focus there. So the A, T, and K, when you follow the focus, you get automatically certain associations. If you combine it, okay, you will get, like in attack, you will get other associations. So now, how do we go from K to C? Do we know with the A focus, we keep it centered and we try not to move it. With the T, we move our focus up, so we move it up, and K, we will move it aside, and also associated is we move it away. We move it away from the first center. It also says that once we use K, it also says we moved away from our center focus. It becomes a question also, that's why you have the K, which is that doubtful place. We moved away from the center, so where are we going? We're not sure anymore, but we're going away. We move away, we go to the side. Okay, that gives a different attention, of course, than the position of A, where we have a steady focus. If we would use that separating focus separately, we use it not towards the sides, towards the moving away, but we use our focus to what moved away. So that we're going to give that attention. What did move away? What is at the side? So we focus from the side, from that position of K, and we use it as a separate focus. It will be a renewed focus at that point. At the borders, our renewed focus is C, not K. But it will resonate just like K, because we'll have an idea, but we compare it to what was my real center focus. We try to centralize it, but see it from the position of what changed there. That's what C expresses, and not a K. So all the points in space are from A to TK to ULB to C, M and X. These are all the positions within space that are possible. In the center point we have A, T and K. So that's where we can start from, and actually there are starting points steady in A, T with a certain position where I know I have something functional, and so I focus upon the material, and K, I focus upon the limits. And it's associated with horizontal, vertical and diagonal centers, because they moved away, although these movements or positions are only important while I still keep my focus. The position itself that tries to centralize itself are important. So then what's the next step? The next step will be that I can't keep my centralized or a-centralized focus, and it will become more different, but I want to continue my centralized focus. That small switch in consciousness gets us to U, L and B, because there are other elements playing along, and at distracting a distraction actually that keeps us away from the middle. So we have a wider range of the middle actually, where we try to keep somewhere our focus centralized, and that's a bit more difficult because other things take part, contradictions takes part, something is changing, moving, it's not so harmonious anymore. So it is we try to direct our mind, but we are distracted actually. As you can see in the gray spots, these are the distractions. The black spots are actually, we try to keep focus on the horizontal, the vertical and the diagonal. In reality, you could see it there, like, okay, when you have you see these three visions, they are a bit moving, so there's almost like an opening coming here, like in U, or something is moving up in L, or something is moving to the side in B. So basically you have very clearly in L something which is vertically growing, and at the borders growing in B. Basically they are related because we have also something that we can't count into our calculations of counting on it, on the forms. We don't know what to do with it. So they can also be regarded, and I didn't explain that before, as blind spots. And that's how it also is translated into that some parts are not filled in. And that's why it's also becoming irregular. That's why the U is there is that blind spot in there, so it's small. It's inside is still something that needs to fill in. That we don't know what to do with it. It's even bigger in L, and it's even very large at B. We don't know where it's going to, and it's quite large. So we try to focus on what we can see. What we can see, we will exaggerate, so we'll have a bigger spot of vision, which will make it a bigger spot of vision, which becomes the materialized function, a materializing function, which will become something more physical. It will become more material. So the U will focus upon the material which we'll have, where there will be an incomplete part as well, which often is the hollow part. So we see the outer shell actually on U. The L will be that also that focus on the material that grows forth, and the B as well that grows forth in general, and the B at the borders, of course. Here we have that enlarged focus on what we can recognize as material. And then the material will grow in U, in L vertically, and B at the borders. You could also say, yeah, the U then mostly have that kind of form. The L in this range, and the B in that range, in a certain range. Slightly moving at times as well. It's not irregular, it's irregular. When we even exaggerate that even more, we will have, we will move to the borders itself, and we will say like, okay, we look at it at the borders and how far we can still go with it. The limits of our organized focus will be there, and we will choose that dominant focus as the focus itself, not of something that is growing there, but really like, no, the focus itself is the most clear thing. How it's all going to be filled in is already less clear, because it goes in all kinds of directions. It's even more than just one irregularity. There are already two irregularities. So we keep our centered focus even bigger in this case, in C, in M, and X. And there these the letter C will reorganize itself almost like a centralized focus at that borders. It organizes its material again, that's the second position in M, and it really organizes its limits, its borders at X. So here we have them. You have three sort of borders, C, M, and X, and I was going to talk about C mostly. What is the C, and why is it so comparable to K? You see how much it is comparable, because the K was moving away from the center to the borders. The C starts from the borders. It's almost at the same spot. And it is, and of course, it will be not just on the same spot. It will, of course, can also be in that way be pronounced with the same sound, K. So here you have a couple of options still, C, M, and X. You can see them from the borders itself. So from the top, and so we have the C at the start, where you start from the M vertically, and the X at the outer borders there is one of the possibilities, but basically it is like, okay, let's go to start from the borders, something that we can use horizontally, vertically, diagonally, whatever, even whatever kinds of distractions that you have there, which you can see there on top. There are some distractions, and these distractions, we try not to focus on these distractions, but we keep to have our focus together. In C as a centralized focus, in M as a focus which organizes the material, and the C which is an organization of actually the borders and limits themselves in X. But we were going to focus, I was distracted by the last three letters, on C. So we have here a couple of expressions of C. If we focus on the focus itself, the starting point of focus, or if we start to focus on, okay, here we can start from, despite that we have certain elements that play around, it doesn't matter, it is a centralized focus of its own. In very simple terms, C is simply starting from the border itself, from where we can still use it as a center point. Compared to K, you already know it, it's not just, it is leading to that point, but that leading to the point is really to break it off, to be sure that, okay, no, more to see like, yeah, but how far can we, from our center point of vision, still think? And so there are some elements that we know at a certain point we have to break them off. Maybe we have to change our starting point position. In K, it is really that doubtful thing of that at a certain point wants to break off a certain part, wants to break off a certain element, is much more important to have that doubtful moment. In C, it is more like, okay, but I know at that doubtful moment I can also keep my centralized focus together as long as I deal with the elements that are breaking off. You see, it is a little bit, it can go a bit further with C than with K. From the moment of C, it will not be, no longer be a question of, oh no, something is going to be separated. No, we are going to separate something. We have a distinction. We use this distinction, and we can have actually two results in this distinction, or we can fall back on how much and how well we can distinct what is going to be different, or we're going to see of what kind of distinctions do we get in the end. So we start from our ability to make a distinction, or how many distinctions will be there at the end, the results, and that will be the difference between these two sounds, our ability K, or the results, or S. And the S sound is like looking at all the elements that are really, yeah, different, that are already surrounding us, which when we focus upon what we can distinct, we don't care. But if we're really going to see, yeah, what is all going on, there will be from that point on also a diagonal distinction in a way. So we're going to see, okay, what is different. So we're going to look around and see, not just forward, but also look around what is different, right, left, and we're going to see all the varieties that are going to move around us, change around us, and that's the letter S. And you can have a lot more sounds even. It will take us too far to go into that these sounds as well. We're only going to explain the S sound in the C, but you can have even the ts sound where certain points are fixed and we go from there, or sh sounds where we also go, okay, but how far goes this influence, until where has it? We're not going to focus upon these examples. The S sound is then these variations where the elements can vary a bit around a certain stability of focus, and that's that awareness that is important. When I use the C as the letter S, I have an awareness that there should be a balance and counterbalance within my focus, and I deal with all these variations. That's what I have then in C. I have them again in my scheme, if you remember. So the C at the border of vision, so can either deal with my starting point, expression that I'm aware that I'm limited I'm limited in what I see. So let's deal with the blind spots. That's the K actually. But when I deal not with the blind spots, but also with the behaviors that I see in these blind spots, so that I can still see and keep the balance, I'm looking at the results, which I don't see beforehand, what I don't know beforehand, I can still follow them up, and that's the sound S. That's when C has the sound S. Let's now use this idea of the C with the letter S on a word, and this word is machine. So I have the M as a kind of material that behaves towards the borders, with which I focus upon, and then the C will try to keep that focus organized so that I have within the variations there something that I can work with, that is from my vision what I want to do with it. But it will associate itself with H, so that means it has to find out what is the balance then. H is about the balance, a workable balance. The H is about time and space within a frame that is workable with a beginning and ending. That's what H is about. So H is actually, you find a starting point of time and place and an ending of time and place. It's contextual, so it will also move and find its balance. That's more difficult to find that, but I will explain it. I hope you can still follow. But it is that balance of H between the starting point and the ending point, where I will have my move towards it and the feedback towards it. So there is a balance between the perfectly balanced out thing that I want to achieve something, and I am able to achieve something. So it's that livable space in between my push forward, what I do, against the feedback of what can be done. So the H is that livable, like the breath, the livable space in which all the movements in time and space are in balance, and that's what we will try to achieve. We have there the C, which can go into different actions and reactions as the letter S, and the H will try to find out that balance. It's a complicated concept, but I think you can still follow it because you know what to expect. I think you can. So you have with all that I explained. So the C is that the C as the letter S tries to find out the elements that have different directions, try to balance it out so that I have from start to finish, I have a concept that I can use in movement of material, in movement, and within that space where it can move in time and space. So I will get to in the end to it. So, but we have some patterns. We have the pattern of H, which is the balanced out space in between the feedback, what can be done, and our push forward, what is done. So that we already know. The M is that material, so the material has certain conditions in which it can move into certain directions. Via the letter C, it has a certain variety in which it has a balance. We have to find the counterbalance. The counterbalance is, of course, we also have to find, here it is out of balance a bit, so we have to find a balance in 1, 2, 3, which I will find with the counterbalance. So there is this little movement of sh, that's that. And we have to find where the sh will be in balance within that space. How can we have that? By filling it in where it will be able to be put into a counterbalance. So the H, the mash was this movement, not much more. That's the M, and the sh will move it a little bit with the H to it as well. So mash as this form in a movement. With E, I will have an application, and N and A will say I will have an application in time that I can start to activate as well. So it is that object that at a certain point we will start to activate, and we will start to activate and get it start to move. So the machine then in that way is described as the object with certain conditions, which can have this variation of that variation, but with the in to it, it will also start to move as well. It doesn't move from the start. It has an ability to start moving and so on. It's not an easy word, so I will have a more simple word which also starts with mash, but machine should be, as an idea, actually understandable, that it has these variations, so from here to here, which you can actually, yes, switch it on so that it will actually also start to move and continue to move and have this counterbalance state set in motion so that it will be materialized further. So once you start to read and listen again to what I said, it will become clear. But I will have that more easy word that is more easy to understand, which also start with mash. And that which word starts with mash is this counterbalance is also be found in the word machete. So you have the mash in one condition, in the other condition, and that's the balance. That's the balance between these mash. Mash is that balance and not more than that. What's ete, machete? Ete is movement up, which I place up, which I move up again, or which is moved up again. So also this place is moved up. So I have an object which has a certain length and which also is moved up. Machete. So you have machete is that, and combined with that machete in the form as well. Machine is also this counterbalance, but the E, N and A is E. I have my application here, I apply it here, I apply it in that counterbalance in H. That counterbalance in H will get a function N. You can read that in my system. It receives a function as an object as well, and also in a certain timing or timing when that timing can start. So basically machine is also that movement, the M in A. So we have that form that has certain varieties. Ma focused on where it changes at the C, but in the form of the letter S, it also is aware of what can change and is actually also in a movable state. With the H, it says also where does that movable state go. So it goes from one direction to another direction. So you really have that movement already. Mash, and then yes, I apply this mash into as a function. Take it out so that take it out and start my timing process from there. So from that moment, that machine can start to move and be act accordingly and get it to work. Actually, with the E, I get it to work. Not the easiest word, I told you beforehand, but the video was also a good opportunity to explain the first 9 letters a bit better, and all what you remember and understand, you will remember forever. That's the advantage. If you don't understand certain aspects, it doesn't matter. So at some other point, you will get it. And when you really understand certain aspects, you will not forget them anymore. And after a while, you will also recognize them. And that's a good thing, because then you can also recognize what's happening in combinations of letters, and why certain words are described with certain letters, why they have certain combinations, why we can remember them, how we can sense them, how we know what to do when we hear these words, know what to imagine when we hear these words. It's not just that image in our mind. There's a whole set of movement and orientations and so on to it as well, with its own qualities as well, the qualities that are related with each letter, and combine also with from letter to letter. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye bye.